Welcome to the Adoption and Foster Care Journey, a podcast to encourage, educate, and equip you to care for children and youth through adoption, foster, and kinship care. Hosted by an adoptive mom with over 22 years of kinship and adoptive parenting experience. She's on this journey with you. Please welcome Sandra Flach.
Behold, I am doing something new. Now I will spring up. Will you not be aware of it? I will even make a roadway in the wilderness, rivers in the desert. That is Isaiah 43, verse 19. I'm your host, Sandra Flach. Welcome to the Adoption and Foster Care Journey podcast. We are here to encourage and equip you for your parenting journey. I'm an adoptive mom as well. I'm actually a mom of 8 kiddos, all grown. I've got 11 grandchildren, but 5 of my kids came to us through adoption, and 2 of them are both diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome. They are now young adults in their early 20s and still live at home, so I understand the challenges that come when parenting children with trauma histories, and especially those who were exposed to substances in utero, especially alcohol, which has longer lasting effects, permanent effects. So I am passionate about supporting you with the resources that we offer. In addition to this podcast, I offer FASD parent coaching, an online support group, and in-person and online training, including Wired Differently, which is a workshop coming up in September. Wired Differently is a 3-hour online workshop for parents, caregivers, professionals, anyone working with your kiddos, youth group leaders, children's ministry leaders, babysitters, bus drivers, your other adult kids. Anyone spending time with your kids would benefit from this 3-hour training. It utilizes the Facets Neural Behavioral Approach, which I am a facilitator of, and will focus on the impact of trauma and prenatal exposure to alcohol, the effects on the brain and body, unpack the primary, secondary, and tertiary symptoms and characteristics of brain-based differences, including FASD, of course, and explore accommodations and strengths-based strategies for supporting children, teens, and young adults. It is coming up. Wired Differently is offered on September 16th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. It is a 3-hour session, and all attendees will receive a certificate of completion. So if you need that for your continuing education hours, if you are a foster parent and want to maintain your license, or if you are a social worker or professional who would need a CEU, we do offer those as well. So there's a link in the show notes where you can register, learn more information about reserve your spot today. Now, I am booking into the fall and beyond for my travel and speaking schedule. So in September, I will be at the Christian Alliance for Orphans CAFO 2026 conference in Atlanta, and that is on September 23rd through 25th. I will be leading an FASD coaching room and also hosting an FASD parent and caregiver meetup, and I'll have an exhibitor table there as well with lots of resources. So if you come to CAFO, stop by and see me, and I will be flying from Atlanta to Washington, D.C. for the FASD United Affiliates Impact Week, and that is the 26th through the 29th of September. Then in October, I will be at Replanted in Chicago. That is a conference / retreat for foster and adoptive parents. And I will be leading, and that's in Chicago, October 15th through 17th. I will be leading 3 breakout sessions at Replanted and have an exhibitor booth with our resources. So again, if you can get to Chicago for this amazing conference, stop by and see me there. I do have room on my calendar if you're interested in having me come in person and do a presentation on FASD, a training on FASD, or speak to your foster and adoptive support group, church ministry, retreat, whatever your needs might be, if that you might need a speaker or a trainer for, reach out to me. My email is in the show notes. You can contact me and we can work on scheduling for an in-person event or even an online event. You can let me know what you're interested in. I'm very flexible and would love to work with you. So I also have a free gift for you. 12 breath prayers to steady your heart is available on my website. So I have my own personal website, sandraflach.com. It is connected to our Justice for Orphans website where all of our resources live. But you can go to sandraflach.com, download a free download of a PDF of 12 breath prayers just for you. So that's at sandraflach.com, link in the show notes. And I feature breath prayers in my newest book, Soul Care Saturday, 52 Devotions for Foster and Adoptive Moms, which is available on Amazon. So, but make sure you go over to sandraflach.com and download your free PDF of those 12 breath prayers today. So now to my guest. I'm excited to have today Holly Seaver. She is a Christian wife, mom of a multiracial and multicultural adoptive family. She's a foster mom and a children's book author. Her writing is inspired by her family's lived experiences, and she's written such titles as My New Home and Me, as well as Jack and Max and the Happy Home, a foster care story. So I'm so excited to get to know her today. Please welcome Holly Seaver. Welcome, Holly.
Thank you.
I'm super excited to have you on the show. I know we connected through one of your books, and we'll talk about that. But I love to interview fellow adoptive moms, and I know that you are a mom, and I read your bio, so our listeners are anxious to hear about you. So, would you share that story with us? What led your family to foster care and adoption?
Oh, okay. I was an addiction recovery nurse for 9 years. Loved my work, loved what I was doing. You know, there's a lot of positives there. You know, people can recover from addiction, and I loved being a part of that. So I was doing that for about 9 years, and I would admit a patient, and to make them feel a little more comfortable about coming into a recovery facility, I would try to make small talk with them. And I would say, oh, where are you from? And, you know, where's your family? And that kind of thing, you know, are you married or not? And I'd say to them, do you have any kids? And more often than not, they'd say, yes, I have children. They're in foster care. And that just stuck with me. I just couldn't let go of that. And it was something from God, definitely. And of course, you know, when God tells you to do something, sometimes you have a million excuses. And I had a million excuses. You know, my husband and I were empty nesters, and we were both still working at the time. And how can I do this? This is crazy. And I read an article we're from Cape Cod. I read an article in the Cape Cod Times about a couple that in our age group, he was retired, she was still working, and they did foster care. And I said, okay, God, all right, I hear you. We've got to go ahead and do this. So we went ahead and we got the training. And I was still working at the time. I was actually working two jobs. I was working the nursing job, and then I was working more of a desk medical job. And we got the training, and they come to your house and all that sort of thing. And you go to the classes and everything. And I realized just before we were going to get our first placement, I can't keep nursing and foster at the same time. So I gave it up. I gave up my nursing job, and I still had my desk job, which made it a lot easier to take in kids. And we started taking in children. And we just, again, you know, when God tells you to do something, you do it. We got the last seat in the licensing, in the training, the MAP, they call it MAP training. I got the last seat in the MAP training group. So we were like off and running right away. And what we did was we decided, okay, we want to do this real slow. And people don't understand this about foster care. There's various ways that you can foster. We decided you can do respite care. would you just give another foster family a vacation? Let the kids come to your house for a week, a weekend, whatever it is, and you're not committed to some long-term child in your home. So we decided that what we could do was short-term foster care. And we would take a child for a couple of days, a month, up to a month. And in between that, we could travel. We could say, okay, we're available from here to here. And then we could go off, to New England and do something fun. And those kind of things, that kind of fostering is very helpful, because a lot of times a child is taken into foster care and, Aunt so-and-so is going to be able to take that child, but she has to buy a bed and she has to have her house inspected and all that kind of thing. So they're very, it's called DCF, and Department of Children and Families in Massachusetts. DCF is very happy to have these short-term foster care families because it really gives them a hand. So we did that for about a year. And we were very happy with that, travel in between and go see family and whatever. And we could really plan out, a life as empty nesters. So one night, and I say this story and my husband will swear it's not true, but one night I think my husband lost his mind and said to me, wouldn't it be nice if we did some long-term foster care? We could get into more of a schedule, get to know the kids better. And I was like, okay, sure. Yeah, I'm thinking, I don't know what happened to him at that moment. And he's probably going to change his mind tomorrow, but okay, sure. The next day, here's the God stuff again. The next day, the social worker called and said, Holly, I have 2 girls for you. And the foster home is closing, or they're moving or something like that. And they're a long-term placement. Would you take them? And I said, yes, because the night before, that's what he said. And so I call him up and I say, there's 2 girls coming to our house in their long-term placement. And he goes, what? He said, I just said, wouldn't it be nice? I said, too late. So they came to our home, and about a week later, he called us up again and he said, Holly, the girls have a sister, a younger sister. She's been living in a different foster home, and that foster home is not continuing. And these girls have been separated in foster care for a year. And we know why that happens, because there's not enough foster homes out there, and they can't always take 3 kids at once. So we said yes to that. And I called him up and I said, go, and we had Kmart at that time, go to Kmart and buy a bed, because we're getting another one. So we had these girls for 9 months. They're delightful children, so sweet. And long story short, this was a story I told on PBS Stories from the Stage. I got to tell it on there. But long story short, the girls got to go home, which is exactly what's supposed to happen.
Yes.
Mom had done the work. She did what she was asked to do by DCF. She got the job done, and she was able to get those kids back. And they lived 10 minutes from us. We stay in touch with the family. We've been invited to their birthday parties. It is the most wonderful story, just wonderful. And that was our introduction to long-term fostering. So since altogether, we have fostered 18 kids.
Wow.
And after those girls went home, and they went home on Valentine's Day. Oh, it was so sweet. After that, COVID hit, and nobody was going anywhere. If you had a foster child in your house, that was it. We're not moving anybody around. We didn't have anybody at the time. So after COVID sort of wound down a little bit, they called us up and they said, would you take this one little girl? She's not working out in her foster home, and we want you to take her for 2 weeks and just see how she does in your home. Okay. So we take her for 2 weeks, and then they called us up like a week or so, like maybe 2 weeks later. And they said, guess what? She has a sister and we're closing that foster home. And would you take the sister? And the sister was 4 at the time. And I like to take kids that are at least in elementary school, because they're gone during the day. I can work, that kind of thing. So I said, well, I don't take 4-year-olds. I said, but I'll meet her. Well, she was large and in charge. She was not a 4-year-old in her little brain. We took both of them, and 4 years later, we adopted them both. But
Aw.
it was a very long learning process. The girls had been through a lot of trauma.
Mm.
We kept saying to the social worker, we don't know what we're doing. We had a lot of help. They had that there was therapists for them, and we would learn, during their therapy sessions. We had a lot of help coming into the house. We had social workers coming in the house. We had therapists coming in the house. We had all kinds of things. And 4 years later, DCF felt like, okay, they're stable enough now, and would you adopt them? And again, long story short, well, I'll tell you this part of the story. We had said no, we weren't going to adopt them. We thought we're too old. These girls are mixed race, African American, and then African American and Jamaican. And we thought, oh, somebody better must be out there for these kids. It's got to be somebody. And so we said no. So they actually found a couple that was willing to adopt them. And right about that time, our oldest, who's been through the most trauma, she started to turn the corner, and her behavior started to change, and she started to trust us more, and she started to settle in a little bit. And so we said, well, we called up DCF and we said, we've changed our mind and we will adopt them. They said, well, we found somebody and we're going to start visits with them, this couple, this pre-adoptive couple. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to jump up and down about this. I'm not going to call lawyers and get all upset and all that. I'm just going to pray. And I called everybody around me that I could possibly think of. And I said, please pray. We believe these girls belong with us. And 3 months later, the couple that was going to adopt them changed their mind. And we were able to adopt them then. And they were really happy because they wanted to stay with us. We had bonded. And so we were able to go ahead and do that adoption. So after we did the adoption, we, let the dust settle a little bit, and about 3 months later, we said to them, do you want us to keep fostering? Because you still have your license for about 6 months without taking another placement. And we still had our licenses. We said to them, do you want us to keep fostering? Because we'll stop. If you don't want kids coming in and out of the house, how do you feel about this? And they said, yeah, we want you to keep fostering. So we took one little girl, and about 1.5 years later, we were able to adopt her too. Wow. So now we have 3. And in between, we've had some other fosters as well. And but now we are both, how old are we now, Ralph? We're 70 somethings.
Wow.
And we're raising 3 children. And it's challenging and crazy and but delightful. Yeah. It's just wonderful, to see these kids who have gone through so much. And my husband Ralph said to me the other day, he says, I was walking through the mall with our oldest adopted child. He said, and she reached out and grabbed my hand. And she's happy to be a part of a family. She feels accepted, and she feels secure, and she feels loved. Absolutely. And the wonderful thing is that we are able to have open adoptions with both of these, the oldest 2 with their mom, and the youngest one with her mom. And we're able to share the love of Christ with them. We, one of the moms said to me, oh, you must think I'm such a horrible person. I said, I'm not judging you. You want forgiveness? That's what God's for. You go and you talk to him if you want forgiveness. I'm here to have a relationship with you. We start from here. We go forward. We're going to have, we want to have a healthy relationship where the kids know that you love them and we love them, and we're just going to be a bigger family. And that's what we've done. And it's worked out really, really nice.
Wow. I love that, Holly. Just and thinking, because with your background as a nurse, our children come to us through foster care, through adoption, and they've experienced loss, they've experienced some levels of trauma,
Mhm.
Possible prenatal exposure to substances. What was
Yes.
that like? How did you guys navigate those challenges? Were there, there had to be behaviors like those big
Oh,
hard behaviors. How did you navigate that?
it was very challenging. Like I said, the phrase we kept repeating to our to our social workers, we don't know what we're doing. But they got us in touch with a lot of services, therapists, mentors, and it was outpatient therapy, inpatient therapy, and we learned right along with the kids, about the behaviors and how they're going to handle them, how best for them to handle them, breathing and whatever else, and having some positive, replacing those negative experiences with positive experiences. And we learned right along with them how we should um, parent these children. And one of the things I say is that the oldest child, who's now 14, when we first got her, about the first, we got her in August, and we were coming up to that first Christmas. We had her sister as well at the time. And I looked at my husband, and I had never done this before with the foster kids. I said, I can't do this anymore. Her behaviors were completely out of control. And we knew where they came from, and we had a heart for that. But at the same time, it was so difficult. I'm like, I don't think I can keep going. I'm just not sure I'm going to be able to do this. And he looked at me and he said, let's just get through Christmas. Now, I never thought I'd hear those words out of him in a million years. And that again was another God thing. And so as we went along fostering them, then I know God did this too. We never gave up on the same day. He would say, I can't do this anymore. And I'd say, let's just keep going a little bit longer, a little bit longer. Because what the social worker had said to us was stability and a safe home, and just caring for these kids and loving these kids and just being stable with them is going to do an enormous amount of help
Healing.
for them, help and healing for them. And of course, being Christians, we took them to church. We took them to church. They were in their Sunday school class or their children's church program. As they've gotten older, now they're in youth groups. We took them to Vacation Bible School. We introduced them to other Christian families who have fostered and adopted. We have a nice little village, that have come together and helped each other. And we just felt like I said, for the longest time, we thought, we're not adopting these kids. There's got to be somebody better. But we just kept relying on God and his strength to get us through every day. Some days at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know how we did this, but God just never let us give up on the same day.
Wow, that is great. And having your village, having a community around you who are navigating the same challenges, that's huge as well.
It is.
So I'm grateful. I'm grateful that you have that. So how old are the girls now, and how's everybody doing? Tell us a little bit about that.
Our oldest just turned 14. And I said to her, since she's been through a lot of therapy and she's, really taken it very seriously and taken that advice in and really, working on her behavior. I said to her, it is so much fun to have conversations with you. We can laugh back and forth. We tease each other. She'll give me a face. I'll say, oh, well, there's that 14-year-old face again, and we can talk, and we can just have that really warm, mother-daughter relationship. So she's 14. Her half sister is 10. And then our other adoptee she's going to be 8. It's amazing. It's really amazing. And we have a blended family because, like I said, the oldest is, well, I think I told you earlier, the oldest is African-American. The middle one is half African-American, half Jamaican, and the youngest one is Caucasian. So when the little Caucasian girl came into our home, she was 5 at the time, and she's trying to learn the house and trying to learn, everybody's name. And she'd look at me every once in a while and go, that brown girl, Well, she said blah, 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 you
Yeah.
know, and now they're sisters. They
Mm.
couldn't be more close. They, you know, and three of them. So sometimes it's the oldest and the youngest are getting along better, and then the middle and the youngest, and it goes around and around. But they're sisters. They count on each other. They ask, you know, each one is interdependent of the other, and their opinions really matter. So we have to have those conversations like you would for any child. You know, watch your words, because that person loves you and is looking up to you, and you're their sister, and you want to make sure, you know, keep your conversations sweet with them. Keep, you know, be supportive, be understanding. We're not going to see things the same way, but we can listen and we can be kind.
Yeah, that is great. So, Holly, you said you and your husband are in your 70s, and so
Yes.
you've got school age kids, a teenager and younger. How do you navigate school and homework and all of those things that exhaust even younger parents?
It is exhausting. I work 4 days a week and I have a desk job, so it makes it a little easier, you know, to navigate things. Like if somebody's, calling up from school and saying, "I don't feel well, can you come get me?" I can organize that. My husband did, thank you God, just this past year decided to retire, so he's taken on more of the parental activities. He's Mr. Mom in the morning. He makes their breakfast and makes their lunch for them to take. He'll comb their hair and put barrettes in it or whatever they need. And he's just as organized as I am about the calendar. Okay, what's tomorrow look like? Do we have to do this, this, and this? That's been a big help. It was harder with him working, but again, thank you God, he was able to retire, and he's taken on more of the day-to-day things. And the girls, it's amazing. The girls are all dancers,
Mhm.
each one of them. They're so talented. So we've got school, and you've got, you've got your doctor's appointments and your therapy appointments, your dentist appointments, and then they go to dance at night. So we keep a tight schedule, it's school, it's coming home, homework or whatever it is. Sometimes they're taking their homework to the dance studio with them. And then it's always, dinner, get your schoolwork done, get a shower, get in bed. It's by 8 o'clock, we're exhausted, but it's head above water all the time. And God gives us the strength to go on.
Sandra Flach, host of the Adoption and Foster Care Journey podcast, and FASD educator Debbie Raymond, invite you to join Hope for the FASD Journey, a virtual support community for parents and caregivers raising individuals with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, diagnosed or not. This faith-based support community meets online 3 times each month, features special VIP guests, and a private Facebook group for members only, which includes Soul Care Saturday video devotionals led by Sandra and Deb. Both Sandra and Deb are adoptive moms raising kids with FASD and facilitators of the Facets neurobehavioral model. For details and to register, visit justicefororphans.ny.org/hope-community. That's justicefororphans.ny.org/hope-community.
I love your heart, Holly, and Ralph's too. And do you guys regret that you don't have an empty nest? Because, my husband and I are in our 60s and we don't have an empty nest. No regrets. But you guys are even, a little older. Any regrets?
No, not for me. Maybe a little bit more for him. He might like a little more downtime, and we make sure that we weave that in. It's like, oh, there's a men's meeting at church. Go, I'll take care of the kids. Go, take some time off. After our kids left, I was very busy with when all our kids grew up and left the home. Our bio kids. I was really busy with my nursing career, but I always missed having kids around. And both of us are very kid oriented, and it's like a blessing. as hard as it is, it's a blessing to be able to parent all over again. And another thing that led us into this, besides reading that newspaper article about the almost retired couple that was fostering, another thing was we looked around our community, and there are so many grandparents raising the grandchildren right now, and it's all because of the opiate problem, alcohol, drugs and alcohol, that they don't have to, but out of the goodness of their heart, they have taken in their grandchildren and are raising them. So when I talk about our village is made up of 60 and 70 somethings that are raising children. So we have an awful lot of support, and we help each other, and we get together, and I'll call it the Moan and Groan Club. We'll get together for coffee, and we'll just share our struggles, and we'll share what we're going through and how the kids are going, and just sharing that. And and we share how God has helped us with different things. And at the end of it, you would think at the end of it, after all that complaining, that you'd walk out with like your head hanging down, but it actually feels good to be able to share and to know someone else is going through it, and to know you can pick up a phone at any moment and call that person and say, oh, I'm having a terrible day. So we really tried to pull a village together and help each other. I volunteer with the Cape Cod Foster Closet, and the thing I do for them is events. And our events are, child-friendly events, going bowling, or, learning how to hip hop or something like that. And so we have the kids out there, running around doing their fun stuff, and the parents get to talk, the foster parents or the grandparents, the kinship parents, we get to talk. So that's so important that we have that village, let's all talk about this, and let's share resources. And that's been a tremendous help.
Yeah, I love that. And so you mentioned you have bio kids. So how many bios are they nearby? Do you have grandchildren? And how do they all mix together?
We are a blended family even before we became a foster family. And the kids are all over the place, which makes me crazy, because I say to the kids, now if you had stayed put and lived closely, and I could help raise the grandchildren, we probably would have never fostered. But again, that's what God has done for us. We have a blended family, and together we have 10 children.
Wow.
Some of them are bios, some of them are adopted, some of them were part of a blended family. And, and people will say to me, well, which one of those children are yours? I said, they're all mine.
Yeah.
They're all mine. Yeah. They don't have to come from me biologically to be mine. They're all ours.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Love that. So let's pivot for a minute, because you are also a children's book author, and I want to make sure that we talk about that. What led you, because you sound like a very busy woman, what led you to begin writing children's books?
Again, it's God. I don't have, going through school, when you go through nursing school, and, when you're doing your bachelor's and your master's, they make you write like crazy. So that's the only writing experience I ever had. But I realized in having foster children that I had a story a true story that I could tell them. And it's about how we got our 2 cats. The cats weren't living in they were living in an unsafe area, living outside or whatever. And somebody takes them in and gives them a home. And then she couldn't keep them long term, and they ended up in a shelter, and then they ended up with us. So that struck me one day as I'm telling this story to this one little girl. That's what happens with foster kids. A lot of times they're bounced around from home to home. And I started telling her this story, and I said, that's what we want for you. Even though you've been in different homes, we want you to find your forever home. And that's the goal here, to find your forever home. So I wrote the first book, and it's true story. I don't take any credit for this, because I don't feel like I'm a writer, but I feel like God gave it to me to use it. And it's called Jack and Max and the Happy Home, a Foster Care Story. So I wrote this. The real Jack and Max are in the back of the book. Right here.
Aww.
So I wrote the story, but like I said, it's a true story. Wasn't any heavy lifting for me. My granddaughter did beautiful illustrations. And
Oh,
throughout the book, there's a butterfly that follows the cats on their journey. And we say on the back, butterflies are a symbol of change and hope. They're a promise that a new life has begun. 2 Corinthians 5:17. So that's how I wrote the first book. And I self-published it. And it was like this creative little effort that I was doing. It was like this creative little project. I worked on it, for a long time whenever I had time, and then navigated, Kindle direct publishing, as challenging as that was. And I got that out there. And every book that is purchased, I donate the profits to the Cape Cod Foster Closet. So then a friend of mine, I don't know if she's really a friend at this point. No, a friend of mine said, wouldn't it be nice if someone wrote a book about kids coming into a mixed race or a mixed cultural family, foster and adoptive kids? And I was like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Somebody should do that. Well, I went home and 5 minutes later, I had the whole book laid out. And this book is called My New Home and Me.
Yeah, I have it
there
too.
It is. Yes, there it is. And the wonderful thing about this book, it's not only promotes diversity and empathy and understanding of what some other child might be going through. I read a statistic that says 40% of US kids do not grow up in an intact family. Their family becomes blended, or they end up living with a grandmother or a great aunt or something like that. They could end up in foster care, or they end up being adopted. And also families today are multicultural, multiracial. So I wanted to normalize that for kids. I wanted them to know, just because you're not growing up with mom, dad, siblings, just because your family looks different, it's okay. And you can celebrate that. And there's nothing to feel bad about. These decisions are made for children by adults. And it's okay, the family you ended up in. And you're still going to find love and acceptance there. So this book, even though it started out about foster care and adoption, it has a much broader reach for kids who end up in a, quote unquote, non-traditional home. And so, again, I donate every dime of profit that I make from the book. I donate it back to the Cape Cod Foster Closet. So I said earlier that I was able to go on PBS Stories from the Stage and tell the story of the 3 long-term foster girls that we had, the sweetest girls in the world. And I told the story there, and I said, gee, I should put that down on paper. So I started writing it, and of course changed the names. I even changed the genders. And it became a young adult book, because it's a story. It's a chapter book. Again, I don't have this ability to write. I swear it all comes from God. I honestly. So I wrote a chapter book. It's with the editor right now. And it's about a 13-year-old girl and her parents who decide to do foster care. And she's not happy about it. And I weaved in stories, there's funny moments in it. There's touching moments in it. And I weaved in stories that have actually happened to us as foster parents. And it's with the editor right now. And I'm hoping it's going to come out by the end of the year. And I'm just trying to, my goal is to promote foster care and adoption. It's to let other kids see themselves in some of the characters, and to let their peers know not everybody has that traditional family, and it's okay. And it doesn't mean that child is weird or strange or anything. That's their life, and it's all right, and they should be accepted just for who they are.
I love that. Love that. So these are great resources for foster and adoptive parents to have in their home library. So where can our listeners grab a copy?
Both of my books, the first book, Jack and Max, that's on Amazon only. It's available in Kindle and in print form. The second book is available on Amazon, but it's also available to bookstores through Ingram Spark.
Yes.
And I have a wonderful publisher. She's lives in Texas, and she's a Christian, and she's helped me all along the way.
Oh, I love that. And then We will put a link in the show notes to your website and list your books so that our listeners can remember the titles and find them easily, because they would definitely they're beautiful. The one that I have, the My New Home in Me. Did your granddaughter illustrate this one
Yes,
too?
she did. She
Oh, it's
illustrated that one as
beautiful.
well. I get so
Wow.
many compliments on her
Yes,
artwork. So many
very,
compliments.
very talented. So family affair. Love that. So, Holly, you chose the verse that I opened the show with. I'll read it again for our listeners. Behold, I am going to do something new. Now it will spring up. Will you not be aware of it? I will even make a roadway in the wilderness, rivers in the desert. So, what does Isaiah 43:19 mean to you?
Oh, it means so much. But we actually had that verse read at our wedding because my husband and I, before we got together, we had gone through some very, very difficult times. And there were times where both of us thought, oh, what can God do with this broken person? What,
Mm,
what could, what can he possibly do with us? We feel so broken. We feel so alone. And God brought us together. And little by little, we had, struggled to make a family together and to get through some hard times. And then we got to a point where we felt like, the sun has come out and things are a little easier for us. And at that point, that's when God said, okay, you're ready for the next step. I'm going to lead you into foster care.
wow.
And yes, it's so meaningful to us, but it's meaningful to the kids too, what they've gone through,
Mm,
whether the child is adopted from birth or whether they're adopted older or they've gone to live with a grandparent at some point in their lives. There's still that trauma. There's still that they might not be, conscious of it, but there's still that trauma. I'm not living with my birth parents, and something happened, and they might be told a little bit of the story, and they feel like, oh, again, what's happening in my life? What's down the road? And to know that yes, God can make all things new, and
mm.
you're going to have a new path in life. You're going to have those rivers of blessing in your life. You've got a new future, and we need to move on with that.
I love that. Love that. So as we close up, Holly, I just wanted to ask you, our listeners are like us. They're foster, adoptive moms, kinship caregivers. I know you've got a lot of friends that are doing that as well. I was a kinship caregiver as well. Um, would you leave us with some words of encouragement for our fellow moms on this journey?
It's hard.
Mm,
It's challenging. But at the same time, it's so rewarding. Get that village together. Get all the help you can possibly get. Listen to if your kids are getting therapy, listen to the therapist, take their advice. And most of all, be in the Word, be reading the Bible, get your support from above, get that support that only God can give. Sometimes you don't know how you made it through the day, and you can only give thanks to God that he's brought you this far. But get that village around you. There's a lot of people out there there's a lot of grandparents out there raising their grandchildren. They've been put in a situation that they never saw coming. Get around them, help each other, share resources, and just be a listening ear. Because like I said, sometimes you get together and you moan and groan, but at the end of the day, you know that somebody's heard you, somebody's listening, and somebody's there to lend a hand.
Love that. Love that. We need our village. Absolutely. And words of wisdom right there. Thank you, Holly, for sharing your
Thank
story
you.
today. Thank you for your books, the invaluable resources. And thank you so much for all that you're doing and the work there with the foster closet in Massachusetts. And thanks again
Yeah.
for being on the show.
Yes, reach out to me anytime, anybody. HollySeaverBooks.com. My email is on there. I'd love to hear feedback from everybody.
And we'll put a link in the show notes so that they can find you super easy. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening to this episode of the Adoption and Foster Care Journey today. I hope that you were inspired and encouraged by my conversation with Holly Seaver. You can find her children's books on Amazon. We'll put a link in the show notes to her website. So be sure to check those out. And be sure to check out our other resources on our website. Again, I offer that one-on-one FASD parent coaching. If you are raising a child with prenatal exposure to substances, especially alcohol, you will be very interested in our support group, Hope for the FASD Journey. It's an online support group. Holly mentioned we have to have our village. And let me tell you, this is one amazing village. We meet 3 times a month online. We stay connected. It's faith-based, and it will be a place that you will be so encouraged, inspired, equipped, and get everything you need to stay the course on this parenting journey. And of course, make sure that you register for my upcoming webinar, Wired Differently. It is on September 16th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Register for the workshop and learn about all of our resources at justicefororphansny.org. Just click that Adoption and Foster Care Journey button on the homepage to get to all of our resources. You can contact me directly at my email, Sandra Flach at justicefororphansny.org. Link in the show notes there as well. Love to hear from you. I check my own email. I will email you back. So love to hear from you there. Subscribe to this podcast, follow it, leave a review, and let your fellow fostering and adopting friends also know about this podcast. We also do post all of the video versions of each episode on the Justice for Orphans YouTube channel, so you can watch this podcast if you would like to. And of course, follow all of the Adoption and Foster Care Journey social media. I am grateful that you spent your valuable time with me today. I'm thrilled to have you along for the journey.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Adoption and Foster Care Journey podcast, brought to you by Justice for Orphans. We hope you were encouraged today. Please be sure to subscribe to this podcast and leave a review, and share it with your fellow foster and adoptive parent friends so they can be encouraged too. Be sure to find and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Justice for Orphans. And check out our website for vital resources at justicefororphansny.org.